When we're talking about starting a barbecue, I have no end of stories and, to be honest, experience of going to people's houses and myself very early doors of wasting bunches and bunches of newspaper, going to petrol stations and picking up poorly put together firelighters and piling everything on and trying to light barbecues in vain, and eventually just smelling like petrol and lighter fluid and all sorts. Get rid of all of your previous preconceptions of how to start a barbecue. The most important piece of kit for starting your fire is a starter chimney. So this is a, as you can imagine, metal. Wouldn't be much use if it was made of wood. This is a metal chimney with some holes in it for, again, airflow. Again, you're going to hear that a lot in this video, but the airflow into the starting coals is really, really important. And we've got this area at the bottom here, which is slightly more holed, if that's a word. And what we're going to do when starting a barbecue with this bit of kit is we're going to fill that with charcoal, be it lumpered or briquettes, which you've already covered, depending on what you are aiming to do and what you're feeling like doing that day, if you're me. And then what we're going to do is we're going to pop one of those natural fire lighters on a non-flammable safe surface, like an old slab or roofing tile, which I use. What we're going to do, we're going to light that and place this on the top. You can see there we've got a vented grate that is going to allow those flames to start your coals really easily with an absolute ton of airflow, which is going to feed a nice healthy starter fire, which is going to slowly burn up your coals, and you're ready to go. These are even available. I saw one in Asda the other day. They are invaluable. They can range from anywhere between, you know, £7.99 to £25 depending on where you go. It doesn't really matter. It's much of a muchness. This particular one is a Weber one, but it's much smaller than my actual original one that I bought. My original one was £7.99, I think it was from the range, and it's been no worse or no better than this one, apart from the handle being really comfortable. The bigger ones sometimes come with a secondary handle that you can use to tip safely. Sometimes the bigger one, obviously you've got to kind of, I'm lucky, I've got long arms, hold very, very carefully out to the one side and then sort of chuck on the fire. If there's heavy winds, things like that, you've got to be really careful. But with that secondary handle, that can be really useful, because again, you could pick it up with the sort of like an inside grip, second one, in you go, out. So that is a benefit, and they usually come on the more expensive ones, like the bigger Weber ones. But I cannot stress how much you need one of these if you are either smoking, grilling directly, doesn't matter. If you're looking to start a fire with charcoal, get a starter chimney. Okay, so what I'm going to show you today is a very specific setup that I use for longer cooks. Now this is called the Minion Method. Now the Minion Method, in principle, helps you get a longer burn out of one load of coals. So if you can see there, around the perimeter of my fireball, you've got a lot more in the way of coals. Now this is a single species older wood charcoal, and we've got that all around the edge with a bit of a well in the middle. Now there's two ways of doing this, and I will show you the two ways that I light it in this video. In this one, just to help it along, I'm putting the firelighters in the middle, and my starter will go on top of that. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to light it, put the starter on, and essentially clear off, let it do its thing, and then when the coals are lit enough in the starter, just turn it upside down into that well, and then that's going to get everything started really efficiently. I can crack on cooking. Okay, so see how easy they go up? Again, if you look in part one where I said how good they were, I'll tell you half the story. We'll just get that in there, and then just wait for that just kick off. And again, like I said, I'm not going to have to wait for full ignition of these coals. All I want is a good, oh, started already, all I want is a nice burn at the bottom until about halfway up, then I'll tip it upside down and let it crack on with its work. So as you can see, we've got a really good ignition there, and that has been on for, I'm not joking, less than 5 minutes. So I'm going to carefully, I'm going to try and do it with the camera in my hand, carefully move that into the fireball and get it covered up, because that's going to start flaring up in a sec as well, and then we can start regulating that fire and get it ready to cook. Trick is heat-proof glove, obs. I've got a t-shirt and flip-flops on though, so pray for me. Upside down hand. So what we have here is a broken starter chimney. Rest in peace, old friend. Never mind, shit happens, and I've got to be honest, that has been going on for, I don't know, the whole time I've been barbecuing. So that has lasted, for $7.99, that has lasted about, well, 4 years. So rest in peace, my friend. Okay, so middle of the barbecue's on, water's in, middle grill's on. Now it's just a case of putting the other one on, which I'll do now. And then we'll see where we're at temperature wise before we put any food on. But we've got the bottom, I'll open that slightly because it's raging at the minute, so I want to calm that fire down a touch. So I'll have that about there. You can't really see that. There you go. So that's about a quarter turn open. The other two are about the same. And then I usually leave the top open. What we've got here, we've got the temperature slowly rising towards where we want it. That is about 15 minutes in to come into temperature. So that is currently at just under 100. I want that about there roughly before I start cooking on it, because I'm doing ribs today. So I reckon that's about a 4 or 5 hour cook. How we're controlling that fire and the speed in which it gets to temperature are these airflow vents. Now there's 3 on the Weber Smokey Mountain, one there, one just around there, and one just around this side here. So one on the left, one on the right, and one in the middle. Now here I get a lot of airflow because it's right by the door of the barbecue shack, so I get a lot of air smashing straight into that, which doesn't sound, it sounds a little bit dramatic with a little bit of wind, but that feeds the fire really well. So a fire needs that air to really get up to temp and sort of, you know, the air fuels the heat. That's the easiest way to remember it. So I always have this around just under halfway open. The other ones, which I can't quite get around to with the camera safely when it's on, those ones are just past halfway. And then if I want it hotter, so if the temperature starts to drop, I can open this front one slightly more, or if I want something a little bit more gradual, I can adjust the ones at the side. So the other important one is there is one at the top, so I'm just going to show you that now. So again, we are still gently getting to where we need to be on the temperature there. I think it went a little bit out of focus, so apologies. And then this top one, when I'm coming to temperature, I leave this one completely open. So you want to create that atmospheric sort of heat. So we've got the water pan in there, and this area where I'm going to put the rib shortly, it needs to be a moist heat rather than a dry heat. So when I get to temperature, that's going to get half closed. That's going to retain a lot of that moisture in that area, create a really nice atmosphere for the ribs to carry on. So offset smokers, slightly different. Okay, so instead of that top valve, we have an actual chimney which we can adjust like this, and instead of those valves here, we've got one valve or rather vent here. So that is the extent of the airflow control you get with an offset smoker. However, that is all you need really, because the firebox, again, shock, is where the fire goes. So I need to clean this out from my last cook because I did some direct grilling on it last night. But you can see I've got a convection plate there. What that does is manage the heat that goes into there, which I touched on in my last video, but that sort of swirls the smoke and the heat downwards, which then has to travel upwards across the food rather than just going, because you see here, this is where it came standard, or this is how it came standard rather. So essentially when I bought it, there's a big gaping hole, firebox, heat went straight at the top, straight at the chimney, and I was getting undercooked food at the bottom of it. So that has solved that problem. So in here you're going to get, whoops, so in the firebox you're going to get from factory, they're going to put a grill in a little bit like that, and that's where your coal goes. Okay, what I tend to do, and I'll be honest, I don't do particularly long cooks in this. I do 1 to 3 hours tops, and I'll do wings, or I use it for direct grilling, as I just said. What I tend to do is, there are 2 similar grills in there for when I'm using it for direct. I will take a grill out from there, use this original charcoal grate, and I don't get it stuck like an absolute novice. Hold on. There you go. I'll put it that way, and then what I'll do, put one of the other grates across it that way, and that gives a hell of a lot more airflow underneath the fire, and it also gives a lot of room for the ash to drop down and not choke the fire. So basically this takes a hell of a lot more heat management than that. Once I've got these valves, keep calling them valves, once I've got these vents set up the way I want them, that can go, especially if I've got the fuel lit properly. By the way, that is exactly where I want it now, more or less, so I'm going to go and get the ribs. But once I've got those set up how I want it, it's pretty self-sustaining, and that's the beauty of this system, and that's why I love it so much. This, they're labours of love in my view. There is probably more art and skill to managing the fire in there, but it's all fun. But this, I can put the temperature gauge in and crack open a beer and just, you know, check on it every now and then, give it the odd spritz depending on what I'm cooking, away I go. This, you really do need to be on the ball at all times. So that is the big difference between offset and upright water smokers, in terms of the fire management anyway. Now I'm going to show you what happens when we get a flare up. So I'm going to create a flare up deliberately, and I'll show you how to manage it. So in true style of Sod's Law, after going to prepare the food, come out to the grill with a bit of a flare up. So we're going to have to close the airflow a little bit. We're going to have to bring that temperature down. It's not too far off, but I'm going to have to bring that temperature down before I'm happy to put the food on. So what I'm going to have to do now is adjust those vents. Oops. There we go. So I'm just going to close that ever so slightly. I want to do the same to the other 2, which again I can't really do safely in this small space with the camera, but I'm going to go and do that, and then we're going to see if that temperature comes down again. So we have now got it back to an absolute sweet spot. The dial's not moving, nice and consistent. We've moved the right hand side vent to about a 1/4 turn open. The left hand side is about a 1/4 turn open, and then our bottom one is about there. Okay, with the top one about there. So we've solved the flare up, which can happen. We know exactly where we want it temperature wise. and now we've got to just wait for the food to get up to temperature. So a couple of hours, wait for the ribs to get to about 73 degrees, then we'll wrap it, take it up to about 94, 95, and that'll be done. But that's another video all on its own. Today was about fire management. You can see we've managed that quite well, and we've got the sweet spot. So any questions, give me a shout. Thanks for watching. See you on the next one.